Hello everyone and welcome back to Destiny. Last week I invited you all to submit your Destiny 2 questions so that we can put together a Destiny 2 Q&A. There was a lot of questions submitted and I really do want to answer a good number of them, so I decided to break this up into two parts. And while answering the questions, we're going to be watching some 4K 60 frames per second footage of the PC version of the Homecoming story mission. The footage you see here has been provided courtesy of my good pal and fellow YouTuber Will Silva. So please head on over to his channel and consider subscribing to show your appreciation. I'll leave a link down below. In the video you'll see Will test a bunch of weapons, including the new Vite linear fusion rifle, which is absolutely badass. So without further ado, let's jump in and talk Destiny 2. First up, I want to thank my brand new sponsor, LootCrate.com. You can save 10% on any new subscription by visiting trylootcrate.com/futurefoe. Enter promo code BRIDGE10 for 10% savings. More on that later on, but moving on to your questions, we start with, only emblems? I was expecting a little more than that, like class items or shaders. So the video I posted last week focused on the emblems because that was the part of the Destiny memorialization, as they call it, that they have shown. There's going to be plenty of other ways that they're going to honor our time in D1, but they just don't want to spoil the surprise. They might have important in-game context, or they simply are not ready to present us with all of the information. We should all know by now that Bungie is very particular about the way they choose to reveal things. They want to make sure that when they say something, they can commit to it. They are constantly dancing that fine line between telling us not enough and too much. I love the pomp and circumstance that Bungie gives their reveals, and I'm okay with wearing the proverbial blindfold until the big surprise. Let's just hope that surprise is worth the wait. Also, they're showing us the emblems because they are the part of the whole memorialization thing that is time sensitive. The dates I went over in the previous video, and also those listed on the Bungie Weekly blog, are super important to those still working on their Age of Triumph record book and want their progress to count towards getting those emblems. What is your take on the crispy, succulent, jaw-dropping 60 FPS that is Destiny 2 on the PC? Well, I have to say that I'm stunned. It's hard to believe that what you're seeing is what I'm going to be playing on a regular basis. With the PC release 6 weeks after the console release, I'll be starting the game on PS4 Pro, but I am very much looking forward to playing it on PC as my main platform. I'm going to be streaming Destiny 2 full time. It's something I'm committing to for myself, and of course for all of you. I'm setting myself up for a good 6 months to see if I can make it work. So if all goes well setting it all up, you can expect me to start streaming on Twitch every day starting sometime in July. And as a result, I'm going to be building a beast of a computer very soon so I can play and stream at the same time. Daily YouTube coverage will still continue as normal, so you can still look forward to things like news coverage, analysis, guides, and reviews. I do have to say though, in the past that 4K gaming hadn't really piqued my interest too much, so I don't have too much to compare it to, but after seeing this, I'm definitely very excited to play it on PC. But most of my decision has to do with me excited to play other games on PC like Overwatch, Grand Theft Auto, and maybe even FF14. I love that game and I'd love to get back into it. The 60 frames per second definitely makes a huge difference, and while it's a bummer that it's not on the console versions, I definitely don't see it as a deal breaker in any way. What is your favorite subclass shown, and which archetype will you play? By archetype, I assume you mean which of the focuses I plan to use most. So this may not be a super popular opinion, but I think my favorite subclass shown so far is the Arcstrider. I was just lusting over the gameplay footage coming out of E3. And considering all the perks, I think I'll be playing mostly with Way of the Wind. It's the path that focuses on high risk, high reward, and that sounds really fun. Now this does lead into the next question. What do you think about how Hunters will perform in PvE? It looks like they will be very weak in comparison to Titans and Warlocks. Titans and Warlocks have support abilities which are useful in raids and in PvE in general, but Hunters can dodge, not helping their team at all. Now, you do bring up some legitimate concerns, and it's what I've heard a lot around the community, and that concern centers around the Hunter seeming to not be as effective in PvE, especially because of the sort of selfish nature of the class ability, combined with the fact that it seems like you have to get in really close for Arcstrider to be effective, which doesn't seem to bode too well for raid encounters where you generally want to stay a little farther away from the big bads, but I think we'll be singing a different tune after we play the beta. The Destiny 2 beta is of course where we're gonna get our hands on all of the 6 known subclasses, so we will all have a chance to find out for ourselves. I personally think the Hunter will fall into more of a true DPS role. You get in, deal your damage, and get out. And those who choose the Way of the Wind can also play the role of the sideline disruptor, distracting enemies and leaving them bewildered. I went over the Arcstrider Way of the Wind perks in a dedicated video, and if you go back to watch that, you'll see that Arcstrider actually is much more deadly and much more powerful than Blade Dancer ever was. Aside from that, I'm really excited to play around with the Sentinel and see how the Ward of Dawn override really works. I can honestly see those two being my favorite subclasses in Destiny 2, assuming we don't get some awesome redesigns on the original third subclasses. And speaking of which, the next question is, do you think the Taken King subclasses will return? Specifically Night Stalker, Sunbreaker, or Stormcaller? So I keep going back and forth on this. I know we got that one bit of footage showing the other 2 Dark Diamonds next to the active subclass, of course implying that there was 2 other subclasses that we could equip, but that could have honestly just been a test build for the sake of showing off the new UI. Bungie has given us no indication of a third subclass being available at launch, but I really hope that it is. Having said that, it would be hard to imagine them not being the same 3 as we knew before, but of course I would fully expect them to be completely rehashed just like the Striker, Gunslinger, and Voidwalker have been. For the sake of my love of Night Stalker, I hope that it is coming back, but it would be hard to see what they do with Shadow Shot since it technically is a one and done super, which they have moved away from. Yes, Quiver does extend the time for a little bit longer, but it's not quite the same. I was thinking it would be kind of cool to have a super for the Void Hunter where you would run around with some kind of debuff area of effect, so you simply being close to an enemy would hinder them in some way. Think of it like a roaming Envenomed. Of course, you wouldn't really feel like a badass doing that, so maybe you could still fire off a few arrows. Although I suppose the Ward of Dawn override for the Sentinel opens back up all the possibilities, so we'll just have to wait and see. Either way, if they do include it at launch, I hope they keep it as a surprise for the endgame experience. I've said before that it would be cool if we had to discover them again after the campaign, where we defeat Gaul and release the Traveler's Light, of course assuming that's how the story of the main campaign plays out. Now, before we continue to the next question, I do want to tell you a little bit more about my new sponsor, LootCrate.com. You can save on a Loot Crate subscription by visiting trylootcrate.com/futurefoe and enter promo code BRIDGE10 to get 10% off your new subscription. Loot Crate is of course the #1 mystery subscription with epic collectibles and gear delivered right to your door. You can get yourself some pretty cool shirts and even some exclusive items. And July's Loot Crate is no exception. It will feature some awesome loot from Rick and Morty and one of my favorite shows of all time, Futurama. If you have a soft spot in your heart for awesome animation, be sure to check it out. And hey, 10% off ain't bad. But anyways, back to the questions. I believe that D2 wants players to focus on the PvE side of things and actually enjoy the story of the game rather than playing a few missions like in D1 and beating the story in a day. I'm not sure how long the story missions will be, but I'm hopeful that they will take some time to finish. What are your thoughts on this matter? I think the worst offender is with the April update. I think the mission was at the gates or something like that. We basically finished the mission before I even got my first super. That was really quick. I'm sort of thinking back to the awesome long story missions of the Halo days, but it's hard to say if we're going to go back to those routes. Having said that, I really do think the campaign of Destiny 2 will blow us away. They're playing their story cards very close to the chest. We still don't know much about how we get our light back, we don't know anything about the shard, we don't know how the speaker will play into the whole story, and we still don't know anything about this sort of doomsday looking ship or weapon or whatever it is that they keep showing us at the end of the trailers. Bungie has mentioned on several occasions that there are way more cinematics in Destiny 2 than there ever was in Destiny 1. And the base install file is something like 8 to 10 gigabytes larger than Destiny 1 is now. And that's after 3 years of DLC content and expansions. So in short, I have no worry that the campaign or story of Destiny 2 will deliver. And I also agree that it's not only going to be about the campaign. You're going to immerse yourself in the world with things like adventures and lost sectors, and it's all going to make you feel a lot more satisfied with the whole story. At least that's what I hope, and that is what they are selling us, so we'll just have to wait and see. Anyways, that brings us to the end of part 1 of the Q&A. There was a ton submitted, and so we'll tackle some more of these questions next time. So again, a huge thank you to Will for providing the footage. Thank you all for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more Destiny content. And I will see you all next time.
Alright, Guardian. Time to kick him where it hurts.
This is a pretty incredible way for us to remember our Destiny 1 journey into Destiny 2. I have to say my favorite is probably Saladin's Pride, simply because you see all 4 raids in the background behind the menu. That is pretty epic, and it's probably going to be the one I use most often. Now of course this emblem does require a lot of work, as you have to attain rank 7 in the Age of Triumph record book